Hello and welcome. So this is going to be the first part of our full RPG game tutorial. Now in this part specifically, we are going to add a couple different things, starting off with a simple tile set map, just like this, very clean and put together. Then we're going to move on to create a character and have him have simple top-down controls, such as moving up, down, left, right. He's also going to be able to attack in each direction. On top of that, we are going to give him a secondary weapon as well, where we can shoot little arrows in whichever direction he's facing. Apart from that, also, we are going to give him a little hurt animation if he runs into an enemy, just like that. Perfect. You'll have the ability to lose hearts, and once all the hearts are lost, then we're going to have a simple game over screen. We can go ahead, hit play again, and the game will restart. Awesome. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. Alright, for this part, we're going to start off creating the tile maps for the game. Then we're going to move on to creating the player and giving him some movement. Then we're going to move on to the animations of the player, such as animating the movement walking, the attacking, and also the hurting. Then we're going to add the weapons for the player so he can attack with a sword and also a bow for projectiles. Then, last thing we're going to do is create the game over functionality. Let's go ahead, jump right in, and get started. Alright, before we get started, please subscribe and like this video so I can keep making these videos. Thank you. Apart from that, as you can tell, I have a couple different sprites down here. I have an arrow sprite, a bow sprite, a heart sprite, a top-down character sprite, a top-down enemy sprite, a sword sprite, a tile sprite, and a nature pack sprite with trees, rocks, and flowers. Now, you can use your own sprite pack if you want to, that's completely up to you, but I highly suggest you use the same one as I'm using so you can follow along. Now, if you want to use this sprite pack, simply enough, you have to go to itch.io. It's this link right here, I'll put this in the description, and search up the Ninja Adventure. Alright, it's currently free right now. All you have to do is download it and then extract it, and then drag and drop all the different sprites you want to use. Alright, before we get started with our tile map, we first have to go ahead and edit all of our sprites that we imported. Currently, as you can tell, they're currently just one image. Now, some of these are multiple, so we need to make sure they're cut up and, of course, sized correctly. I'm going to start with my nature pack right here. Now, right over here where it says sprite mode, we need to change that to multiple because we know it's a multiple one. Also, mine is a 16-bit, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to 16 pixels per unit. So it's the right size. Awesome. Then I'm going to go all the way down to filter mode right over here. I'm going to go over to point no filter. There we go. And then I think it looks pretty good if we set the format to RGBA 32-bit. Awesome. Now go ahead and hit the sprite editor now. It's going to ask you to apply the changes. I'm going to select apply. Perfect. Now let's go up to the slice on the top left over here. I'm going to drop that down. Instead of automatic, I'm going to go by grid by cell size. Now if you remember, I said it was 16 by 16. So let's go ahead and do a 16 here and then a 16 here. And there you go. Everything should be split perfectly. Go ahead, hit slice, select somewhere else, and there we go. Awesome. Now let's go ahead, hit apply. There we go. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. Let that load. Open it up, and there you go. As you can tell, everything is now split perfectly. Perfect. Let's do that for each one real quick. I'm going to select this one here. Same thing, multiple. Go down here, point, no filter. Change this here. Sprite editor, apply. Go ahead, slice. Make sure it's 16 by 16. I might automatically say it because the last one was that. Perfect. Slice, apply. Perfect. Alright, now I'm only going to do these two items because of course this is going to be what our map is going to contain, just to make sure I have the tile set one and also the nature set one. Perfect. That's all we're going to need for our tile map. So let's go over here now to the left and start creating the tile map. Alright, let's go ahead and create the actual objects now for the tile map. So right over here, we're going to go ahead and right click. We're going to go all the way down to 2G objects. There we go. Then we're going to go down to tile map and make sure you select the rectangular one. Perfect. And there you go. You can see now the grid, which looks pretty good. Now we're going to create two different tile maps, one for the actual ground itself and then one for the nature objects. So we have tile map here currently. I'm going to go ahead and change this name. I'm going to do tile map ground. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and control D on this to duplicate it. And I'm going to change the name of this one here to tile map nature. Awesome. Now, of course, we know we want the nature on top of the ground. So make sure the layer is, of course, above. So the tile map ground should be set to order in layer 0. And the tile map nature should be set to order in layer 1. Perfect. All right. So far, so good. Let's go ahead and select the tile map ground now. And we're going to go ahead and add a new palette. So let's go ahead and create a new palette right over here. Make sure you're on the ground one here. We're going to create a new palette We're going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call this just ground. Keep everything the same. Create. It's going to go ahead, open up where you want it. I'm just going to save it here. Perfect. All right, so far so good. Currently we have ground, awesome. Now all we need to do is of course drag and drop our ground into here. That's going to be this one for me right here. I'm going to drag and drop this into here. It's going to go ahead, ask you where you want it. I'm just going to select it. Let that load. It's going to add every single item. If you have a big one like mine, it's going to take a little bit of time. Awesome. And there you go. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one. So now I'm simply going to go ahead and select the one over here. Make sure we are selecting on it the Tilemap nature. Perfect. Now, of course, we're on ground. We're going to want to switch this. So I'm going to go ahead, create new palette. I'm going to change the name of this one. I'm going to call this one nature. Go ahead, hit create. It's going to ask you where you want it. Select folder. All right, awesome. Now we got to, of course, drag and drop our nature into there. Now I think my nature sprite was moved to the bottom of this. If I scroll all the way down, we should have it here. I'm going to go ahead, drag and drop it into here. Go ahead, select folder. It's going to add each item now. Might take a second if it's big. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Now maybe another option what we could do is move all of our items and tiles somewhere else because it's kind of clogging up our project right over here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder for this. We're going to go to create right over there. We're going to go up to folder. I'm just going to call this palette. All right, I'm going to go ahead and select the top one here and hold down the shift key, scroll all the way down right before we get to the nature one, which was right over here. Now I'm highlighting them all, and I'm just going to go ahead and move them all into that one right there. We could have done this earlier, but no worries. All right, we got them in there, and I think we have another one if we go back to the original, which is the nature ones I added earlier. I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. I'm going to grab the nature one right here, hold down shift. I'm going to go ahead, scroll to the bottom. While still holding down shift, I'm going to select this one here, and I'm going to drag and drop it right into our palette folder. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating the actual map now. So make sure you are selecting the appropriate one. I'm going to start off with the ground one right over here. Make sure you select ground. Make sure you are the Tilemap ground, and then also make sure you are selecting the ground one right here as well. Awesome. So far so good. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I'm going to be selecting this little sand block right here, which is just a plain sand color. If you can tell though, the sizing is a little messed up. To fix that, simply enough, go ahead and select your Tilemap. Make sure that is also 16 by 16. Looks like I forgot to do that. It's going to ask you to save, and there you go. Perfect. All right, looking a little better. I'm going to reselect this over here. Awesome. I'm going to zoom out. All right, make sure you have selected the paintbrush one right here so you can go ahead and start painting. So I'm going to start off with a couple blocks here. I'm just going to make the first couple area all sand. And again, you can make this look like whatever you want to. That's completely up to you. I'm going to make a little sample map just so we can start off with something and practice using it. So I'm going to go ahead, add this all right here. Perfect. Awesome. I'm going to use the surrounding ones here to make a little bit of some corners like this. I'm going to use the other one here for this side. Whoops, looks like I messed that one up there. There we go. I'm going to add that one there. I'm going to add a corner one here, and then a corner one here. Of course, the top corner piece right over here. And again, I'm going to do the bottom one here, the bottom corner here. And I'm going to leave a little bit of an opening right here just so we can continue it with another color. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and add some sand blocks here. And maybe I'll add one more there just to make a couple. So we can go like that. And I think I have a dark sand block somewhere in here. Yep, we can use this one here. Now another cool tool you can use is the box tool, which you can do multiple at the same time, just like that, which is pretty helpful so you don't have to do every single individual one. I'm going to do that just to make it a little easier, a little faster. There we go. And then way down here and here, perfect. Maybe we want to add a little bit of some dirt path on there too, or some sand path. We can do that. Now one thing you notice here though is that currently it's not rotated, or they don't have basically all the around parts like they do for these ones here. If you want to make your own, which I think might be pretty useful for us, all you got to do is select the pen button right here, select which one we want with the arrow, such as maybe this one. Go ahead and select it with the box tool, make sure it's not there. I'm going to do it here, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and hit the paintbrush, and then the pen, and there you go. Now you have a copy of it here that we can adjust it. So I'm going to put it maybe like right here, and I'm going to go back to the selecting one. And then we can go ahead and rotate it now if we want to. Go to the rotate tool. Then we can go ahead and actually rotate it. I think it might be this one. Nope. I think maybe this one. Let's try. Nope, not that one either. It should be the rotation here. We can go ahead and use this here to view. Yep, it is that one. I don't know why it didn't rotate. So it looks like we want to set to 270 to get it that way. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do 270. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. So that's how you can kind of like customize your own and make them the way that you want them, which is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and get off that there, do none. I'm going to go ahead and now select this one again. I'm going to do this one here. Make sure you're not still selecting that. To get rid of that, go ahead and hit the pen button. There you go. I'm going to do that one there. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some grass, maybe to this part right here, and then also this part. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and find the grass patch, which should be right here. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and do that for there, and then that for there. Awesome. And maybe we want to add some other stuff there if we wanted to. That's completely up to you, but I think for now this looks pretty good. I might add some corner pieces to here just to make it look a little nicer. I think we have those somewhere around here. If not, we could use that one, but I don't know if I like that one as much. We could just do one of these, which I think would be this one. Yep, there's one. And then we can do the other side one for this side. There we go. And then we can add the actual corner pieces, which is these again. And there we go. Awesome. Things looking a little nicer overall. I like it. I like it. All right. Remember, you could customize this as much as you want, whichever way you want. That's completely up to you. Now let's go ahead and jump into the nature one now. So if you remember, we have to select which one we want, which is the nature one here. And then also the actual tiles that we have. Perfect. Right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a couple things in here just because why not? So I'm going to go ahead and do one here. I'm going to go ahead and box these ones. And nope, not going to let me do that. So I will just go ahead and individually select these. Let's go ahead and make sure we do each one. There we go. Go to pen. Perfect. I'm going to add some of these trees there. I'm going to do one here. Just like that. Maybe we want another tree over here. Now a cool thing you can tell is this is on top of the tiles behind it, as you can tell, and that's exactly what we wanted. Awesome. And then maybe we want some rocks. I'm going to go ahead and add some rocks in here. I like this one here. I can put one over there, one over here, and one over there. Awesome. Now again, you can customize the map as much as you want. I just wanted a little starting map for now. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating the character now. So what we're going to do, of course, is use the sprite that we have currently, which I have this little guy right here. If I double click it, it should open it up. It is a typical top-down character where he, looks all different directions and moves all different directions with an attack animation as well. Now, I hope you're using the same asset pack that I'm using. If not, I hope it looks similar to this so we can be on the same page. All right. Of course, I also have the weapons for him as well. So make sure you have those, the arrow, bow, and sword. Now let's go ahead and make sure all these are edited correctly. I'm going to click on the character one here. I'm going to go to multiple, change the pixel per unit to 16. Go ahead, make sure the filter mode is set to point, no filter. And then the format to RGBA 32-bit. Let's go ahead and apply everything we got. I'm going to slice this appropriately, make sure it's 16 by 16, just like this. Perfect. Hit apply. All right, I'm going to close that. Gonna let that load. It should be set. Yep, there we go. And I'm gonna do it for the one over here as well. This one can just be a single one because it's just one item, but I do gonna change that to 16, the pixel per unit. I am gonna go ahead, make this one point, and of course format again, 32. There we go. Apply that. Perfect. Make sure that looks like what we want. Yep, perfect. Let's do it for the bow and the arrow, and we should be all set. Let's do this one as well. Awesome. It's just one item, so we can keep it as single. Filter mode, point. Save the change. You know what? I think I forgot to do this one here. Yep. Don't forget to do the format, 32-bit. Save that. All right, that one should look good now. Perfect. Let's do this one now here. Again, pixel per unit, 16. Change the filter mode to point. There we go. Change the format to 32-bit. Perfect. Let's hit apply. Awesome. Make sure that looks good. Perfect. All right. So all our sprites are looking good. All right, now let's go ahead and actually create the character itself. So I'm going to go ahead, select over here. What we're going to do is close up the grid for our map. I'm going to right click over here. We're going to go ahead and create an empty game object. All right, we're just going to call it game object for now. Or actually, you know what, we could do player. Let's call it player. Might be a little easier. We have our player here, perfect. And let's make sure we have it located in the correct spot. I'm going to use the move tool. I'm going to put him probably right over here. That should be good for now. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add the actual faces. Now I'm going to have a sprite basically for each side he's facing. This will be a lot easier to control the animations that I found. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply drag and drop the face we want. So let's start with the down face, which is this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead, put this in here, and I'm going to change the name. I'm going to say face D for down. All right, awesome. And make sure it's centered. Let's go ahead and make the 0 for X and 0 for Y. Perfect. Also Z value, make sure it's 0 as well. And there we go. Now, of course, we need to make sure it's above the layers. And if you remember, we have the current one, the highest one, which is the nature layer on layer 1. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this on 1 as well for now. We might change it down the road, but for now, that's what I want. Awesome. All right. So now let's go ahead and add what we need for the face down. Now, inside the face down, we're also going to add the weapons. So let's go ahead and add the weapons. So I'm going to right click and we're going to create an empty on there. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to call this let's just call this weapons D for down. There we go, because each weapon is going to be facing a different direction. And if we do it like this, we don't have to recreate it a bunch of different times and have a complicated animations. So now we have the weapons. Now, of course, we need to drag and drop the weapons inside of here. And we have two weapons. We have the sword, and then we also have the other one, which was the bow. Make sure we drop these inside of this one here. I'm going to put this here. We don't really have to worry about the name. I'm just going to keep it as bow. And I'm going to take the sword as well. Put that in there. Perfect. All right. I am going to keep it at, let's say 1 also for the layer. So 1. And then 1 for this. Make sure the Z values are 0 for each one. Make the Z value here 0 as well. Perfect. All right, now let's go ahead and let's put these in front of the player. So currently they are not zeroed out. I'm going to zero out them here as well. And I'm going to zero out these here as well. Perfect. All right, looking good. We do, though, want to rotate the sword because we need the sword to face downward. So we can do that from the Z value. So I'm going to make it, I think it's 180. There we go. Awesome. All right, but for now, we're going to go ahead and disable the weapons. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button there. Perfect. But that's going to be our face down. Perfect. Now we're going to need one for each side, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and minimize everything we have in here. I am, though, going to go ahead and duplicate that. And now that we have face down, we could do face R for face right. So let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and replace the face sprite. Let's go ahead and find that one. Should be this one here. I'm going to take that one and put it into face right. Perfect. Awesome. And the weapons in face right, we will, oh, don't forget to disable this one so we can actually see what we're working with. Yep. I'm going to re-enable the weapons on face right. And that's good for now. We could rotate each one real quick. I might do that. Let's go ahead and make the bow, I think it should be 90. Yep. And then the sword also, I think it should just be 90 as well. Nope. 270. Yep, there we go. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and disable the weapons again. Right up there. Perfect. All right, now we have the face right one. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make the next one, which can be face left or up. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to do the left one, so face L is what I'm going to name it. Just like that. Perfect. Face L. Let's go ahead, open it up. Let's go ahead and drag and drop the face L, but first I'm going to disable the face right one so we know we're not working on top of each other. All right, let's go ahead and find the face left, which is this one here. Drag and drop it into the sprite, and there we go. Awesome. Now again, we can go ahead and turn the weapons. Let's do that. So for this one here, I think it should just be 180 again. Oh no, don't turn the actual weapons itself, just turn the weapon inside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do 180. Was it just 90? Yep. But I am going to have the sword curved up instead of down. To do that, we can simply use the X value right here and make it 180, and that should flip it. There we go. Awesome. All right, same thing for the bow. We can go ahead and turn that. So 90, I think it was just 180 for this one. Let's see. Nope. 270, maybe. There we go. Perfect. All right, now that they're facing the right direction, that works pretty good for now. Let's go ahead and disable this and do the last one that faces up. So I'm going to go ahead, close out, face L. I'm going to duplicate that. There we go. I'm going to disable this one here. And I'm going to go ahead, rename this one face U for up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop the facing up right there. Perfect. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make sure the weapons are facing the right way. Let's enable those. The bow, let's go ahead. And I think it was 90. Nope. 180. There we go. Nope. Just 90. 180. Yep, there we go. 180. All right, 180 for the bow. And then for the sword, we can go ahead. What if we put it at 0? Nope. Is it 180 also? Yep, there we go. Awesome. All right, so far so good. I'm going to disable the weapons again. I'm going to disable face U because we're going to always start with the face down one as the first one. Awesome. All right, make sure you got all that in there. Make sure you have each one has a weapons with a bow and a sword in it, and that all the sprites are facing the right way. Awesome. So far so good. All right, before we get started on the animations of the player, we are going to have to add one more face. This is going to be the hurting face, basically, for the animation. So let's go ahead and add that also. It's going to be very similar to the face down one. So let's go ahead and right click on the face D. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to change the name here to face hurt. There we go, face hurt. All right, now in face hurt, we don't actually need any of the weapons. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. We do, though, need a couple little 2D objects to it. So I'm going to go to 2D object. I'm going to go to sprites. I'm going to go to square. And I'm going to go ahead and just change this to eye because I want to give him kind of like little eyeball animations when he gets hit. All right, let's go ahead and make this the utmost layer, which I think is 3. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this to a 0.4 for X and then a 0.4 for Y. That should be good enough size. Zoom in a little bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and maybe make this a little smaller. It's still a little big, so I'm going to do a 0.3 to 0.3. Whoops, make sure it's 0.3, not 0.3. There we go. All right, I'm going to move this down a little bit. Well, I kind of like it there. That's a pretty good spot. And you can make this animation look like whatever you want. You don't even have to add these to it. You could just make them flash red, which we'll do in a little bit, but I think this adds just a little bit to the game that I like. Then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this and put it inside of this one here. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to make this one black, like the pupil. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this again. Let's do a 0.5. And then a 0.5 for Y as well for the scale. Perfect. Let's go ahead and duplicate this eye so we can give another matching one on the other side. I'm going to take away this negative X here because then it will be exactly where we want it. Perfect. If this one here is not showing, we might have to get another layer. So I'm going to give this a layer 4 for that one, and then a layer 4 for the inner one, also right here. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so far so good. And then we'll make him flash red when we have the animation, but I'm kind of like giving him this little cartoony when he gets hit, his eyeballs kind of pop out kind of style. I just think it looks cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. There we go. All right, make sure you got that down there. So far so good. All right, let's go ahead and add some actual animations now. So before we do that, let's go ahead and disable the hurt face right here. I'm going to go ahead, hit that button there. Oh, for some reason, oh yeah, it's the same one. It just looked like it didn't turn off because it's the same downward facing. All right, now let's go ahead and jump into the animations now. So we're going to be adding a couple different animations, but we're going to be starting from the top. So this is going to be our main animation controller, the actual empty game object player. So from here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go to the animation right over here. If you don't have this, remember you can drag and drop it down from the animations on window, and then there you go. You can click on these and then put them right here. All right, but from our animation, we're going to create a new one. The first one we're going to create is going to be a walking one. So actually, no, we're going to create an idle one. So this one's going to be when he's just starting the game. So we're just going to call it player idle. So player idle. Let's go ahead and create that. Now we're not going to add anything to this one because this is going to be basically our center one. So when our player is not moving, he's going to stand still. All right. It's not going to lock him into this position because basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be switching through these ones when we have the script. All right. It's only going to lock it on whichever one it's facing, which is going to be the staying still, either the up, down, left, or right. All right, let's select the animator right over here, and you should see this right here. Perfect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That's going to be the player idle. I'm going to move these other ones a little bit away because we're going to surround this with some other animations. All right, let's go back into the animation over here. Now let's go ahead and get started with this. Let's go ahead and create another one. This is going to be the walk down animation. So let's create a new clip. We're going to call this walk down, or we can just call it walk D for short. All right, awesome. Now let's go ahead and grab our little project here because we're going to have to add the animations to this. I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to put it right next to our tile palette. I'm going to go ahead, slide this over here a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and select our main player here. Make sure we're still on walk D. Let's go ahead and find our player, which are going to be right over here. Let's open these up. Let's find our walking animation, which for the walk down, it should be, if I stretch this out a little more, we could see it a little better. So the walking down is going to be this one here. We're going to start with him moving his arms back and forward like this one. So let's go ahead and we're going to red button this. All right, make sure you're in the red button. We're going to start with that one there. All right, so he's going to start walking like that. Oh, well, one thing to note, actually, let's go ahead and delete that. I'm going to delete key that. There we go. Remember, we need to be putting it into this one here, not actually this one, but this one. So make sure, even though we're on the animation for the player, that we are selecting the face down. All right, and then we're going to drag it into the sprite right over here. So from here, still on red, we're going to go ahead, take that, and put it right there, and it should pop up here. Perfect. All right, from here, I'm going to move about to the 0.1 second right over here. Then I'm going to add the next one, which is going to be the back to regular. Put it here, and there you go. It's added there, so he's going to go like there to there. Then we're also going to go ahead and do another, oh, not this one. We're going to do the other one with his arms switching positions. So right over here. Just like that. All right, so he's going to start with this one, then he's going to move on to this one. And then we're going to set it back to the original one again, so right over here. And there you go. So let's go ahead and hit play and see if that looks pretty smooth. If it's not, as you can tell, then we can go ahead and add another one. So if it's going like this to, oh, we've got to set it to the one back. So let's go ahead and set it to this one here. There we go, and there you go. So let's go ahead and hit play now, and it should look a lot smoother. There we go. I'll make sure it's 10 and 10, or 0.1 each. There you go. That looks really good to me. Awesome. Perfect. So now another thing that happens is when you first create an animation, it's actually going to make it automatically be a loop. And remember, we don't want this to be a loop because we want our player to stop moving when we stop hitting a certain key or arrow pad. All right. So let's go ahead and find that animation. It should be not the idle one, but should be somewhere down here. The walk. There you go. Now make sure we deselect the loop time, all right, so it doesn't loop. Okay, perfect. Now let's do this for each side. So we have this one walking, pretty good. Let's go ahead and create another one now. So we have walk D. Let's go to the animator real quick. Walk down. I'm going to go ahead and organize this. So we have walk down. I'm going to put it right below, just like that. Awesome. All right, let's go back to animation. Let's create another one now. We could do walk right next. So let that load. Not letting me select. Click it again. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and call this walk, capital R for right. Let's go ahead and create that. All right, and similar to what we did, but before you hit the red button, let's go ahead and deselect this one here and reselect this one here. There we go. Let's red button it. There you go. Perfect. Make sure we are on face right, but we are from the controller of the player. Perfect. Let's scroll up. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Let's find the walk right animation. I think it should be this one here. Yep. So we're going to start with the arm moving forward, just like that. I'm going to drag that into there. Perfect. Let's go to the 0.1. Let's do that one there. Awesome. Let's do the switching of the arms, which is going to be this one. And then again, we go back to this. Nope, not yet. We move it forward. Perfect. We go back to the standing one. And then again, we go back to the ending one, which was the beginning one, just like that. If we hit play, there we go. I like it. Perfect. So he's walking forward. Looks good to me. All right, and you can adjust these as you want. That's completely up to you. I'm going to hit the red button to end that. All right, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and select face R. I'm going to deselect that. Let's do the next one. Let's do face left now. I'm going to select this one. Make sure you're not on the red. Perfect. Let's go ahead and create this now. We're going to call this walk, capital L for left. Awesome. All right, now again, remember, we got to select this one. Click the red button. Let's go ahead and find the walk left, which should be this one here. I'm going to drag and drop it into there first. Perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and do the one below it, which is this one here. We're going to switch it out with this one here. And then we're going to go ahead and put the original one back, which was this one. And then swing it all the way back with the first one right at the 0.4. Awesome. We hit play and it should be pretty smooth. Perfect. I like it. Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit the red button. Perfect. I'm going to deselect our guy there and go to the face up now. Let's go ahead and turn that guy on so we can see him. There we go. He's facing up. Let's go ahead and add a new one here. We already have all those there. Let's do a walk, capital U for up. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and drag and drop what we need. Make sure you're selecting the right one. Hit the red button. It should be this one here. So we're going to start with the moving forward one, which is this one. And then we will go to the next one, which is the stand still one right here. And then we're going to go to the next one, which is the switching of the arms. And then again, we're going to bring it back to the original, which was, I think it was this one. And then the starting one, we are going to bring it back to this one. Let's test it out. Let's hit the play button. And there we go. Looks pretty smooth to me. I like it. Awesome. All right, let's go back there real quick. Let's go ahead, turn off the red button. Let's disable this guy here. And before we keep going, let's go into the animator. Let's make sure we're all organized, which doesn't look like we are. So we have walk down there. That's good. I'm going to move the walk right one to right there. The walk left one, let's move over there to the left. And the walk up, let's put it at the top, right up there. Perfect. Just so we can stay organized and we know where everything is. I like it. All right, let's go ahead and do the hurt one now, which is just an extra one that we're going to play. There's going to be more stuff we're going to add to the hurt one, but for now, let's just make the starting animation. So let's hit play on the hurt animation. There we go. Let's go ahead and create a new one. Let's create a new clip. I'm going to say player, capital H, hurt. All right, and this one here is going to be a little different. We're going to go ahead and hit play. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off making him red. So we're going to make sure we're selecting here. Then we're going to go to the color, and we're going to move it all the way to the red. And make sure it's on the red here as well. Then we're going to go ahead, and we're going to make him like pretty much flash red and not flash red. So make sure you're still selecting here. Let's bring it back again over here. And then let's go ahead and bring it back to red. Let's go ahead, hit play, and see how that looks. I like it. Awesome. So when the player gets hurt, he's basically going to flash red. Now again, it's up to you if you want the eyeballs. I just think it looks cool. So that's up to you. Awesome. Go ahead. Let's red button it. Go back. Let's deselect the face hurt. Let's go back on face D. And there we go. All right. So far, so good. All right. Let's go ahead and create the next object in our game, which is the little enemy guy that we're going to bump into once we get our hurt animation and controls set up. So let's go ahead and create that. It's going to be pretty simple. Let's go to our project. I'm going to move this down now that we're done with those animations. I'm going to go ahead and find the little enemy guy, which is this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bigger. All right. I am going to first set it up because it's a 16 by 16. Again, we're going to go ahead and make sure it's point. We're going to set the format to RGBA 30-bit2. Perfect. And let's go ahead and sprite editor it because we got to split it. Let's go ahead, do custom. Oh, looks like I didn't do multiple. Exit. Yep. Make sure you set that to multiple also. Perfect. Let's go back to sprite editor, hit apply, slice. Make sure it's 16 by 16. Looks like it is. Hit the slice. And let's hit apply. And perfect. So there's a little enemy bamboo guy. I think it's pretty cool. Kind of works with the theme really well. Let's go ahead. Let that load. Yep. All right, I'm going to back it up here. Let's go ahead and put this guy somewhere. I'm just going to be giving him just this little one here. Just drag and drop him in here. Make sure he is above the screen. So I'm going to give him a 2, so he's above the tile sets. Awesome. And we're not really going to do too much with him. We are going to give him a box collider 2D. So add component, box collider 2D. Make sure it's surrounding him just like that. Perfect. And the other thing we're going to do is give him a little tag. So let's go ahead and add a tag for him. And simply enough, I'm just going to give him an enemy tag. All right, awesome. This is just going to be for testing our knockback and our player health loss once we get to that point. All right, click on the guy again. Make sure that tag is set. Maybe give him a name. I'm going to call him enemy static because we're going to make this guy not move around. We're just going to kind of keep him here, and we're going to bump into him if we need to be. All right, so we got that guy there. Make sure you have him added. Make sure you have the box collider 2D, and the tag is set to enemy. Awesome. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the last two objects we're going to create before we start scripting the functionality. So let's go ahead and create the game over screen and also the hearts for our player. So let's start off with the hearts. We're going to go ahead and close out everything we have here. I'm going to close out the grid as well. We're going to go ahead and right click. We are going to go ahead and create UI, and we're going to add a new canvas. Let's set this canvas to a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and set the render mode right over here. We're going to set this to screen space camera. We're going to drag and drop the camera we have currently into that right there. Perfect. Then we're also going to go to UI scale mode right down here, and we're going to set that to scale with screen size, so everything is kind of organized on the screen very well. Perfect. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hit the scene view. We're already in scene view, and the canvas should match here, because if we don't have this all set, then it's going to have this big box, be kind of a pain to work with. So this is kind of nice. All right, let's go ahead and create those hearts. We're going to right click on it. We're going to go to UI. We're going to go to image, and I'm going to change this to heart 1. We're going to go ahead, drag and drop our heart image into here, which we might need to reformat. Let's go find our hearts, which should be these. Yep, it's not formatted, so click on it. Let's go to multiple, 16. Let's make sure filter mode set to point, and also the format is that one there. Perfect. Sprite editor, apply. Let's slice these. There you go. They should be already sliced. Hit slice. Hit apply again. And there we go. All right. Now let's click on our heart 1 right here. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this into here. Now we can't currently see it because our canvas is not on the right order. So I'm going to select our canvas right here. And I'm going to give it an order in layer. I'm going to give it a 10 because it should be above everything in the game. Awesome. So now we have our heart. It's a little big. I might go ahead and shrink that. I'm going to make that like a 0.5 of that size. There we go. That's pretty good. And we can change this later. You can also customize this how much you want. That's completely up to you. I am, though, going to go ahead and just put it over here. I'm using control and sliding this, which gives it kind of like a set value, which is a lot better than just randomly putting it places. Anyway, let's go ahead and control D so we can duplicate it. There we go. Let's go ahead and make this one heart 2. Everything else can stay the same. Let's go ahead, control D it again. There we go. Let's go ahead and make this heart 3. And perfect. All right. Whoop, looks like we never pushed them over, though. I'm going to go ahead, control, and then move the little move tool. There we go. I'm going to do the next one here, control, and moving the move tool. There we go. Awesome. So now we got little hearts for our player. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and create the actual game over screen. So we're going to right click on the canvas. We're going to go down to UI again. And this time we're going to select the panel. Should be right here. Awesome. So now it's a little shaded white, but I actually want to darken it out, kind of like it's the end of the game. So let's go ahead and go to color right over here. And I'm going to lower this down. And we can even make it darker by moving this value here a little up. There we go. I'm going to make it pretty dark, so it's pretty significant when the game's over. Perfect. Awesome. Let's go ahead and change this now, because we're going to be turning this on and off when our game is over or not over. We're going to call it panel, and I'm just going to add game over to it. There we go. Now inside of this, of course, we're going to want to tell the player it's game over and also have a little button to restart the game. So let's add that, right click on it. UI, let's do the text first. We're going to go to text mesh pro. It might make you download it just like this for me. I'm going to click import here. Might take a second to load. And I'm also going to do the examples and extras as well. Make sure those are downloaded. Everything should be good. And just about. Let that load. Sometimes it takes a while. We don't really probably need that bottom one, but oh well. Let's just hope it finishes up. And there we go. All right, took a little bit. Oh well. All right, now we have our text here. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and change that to game over. And let's go ahead and reformat this because it's a little small. I'm going to make it bold, of course. And I'm going to take the little box here. I'm going to stretch that out. And I'm going to stretch this out here so we can make it bigger. I'm going to go ahead and make the font size bigger as well. Let's try 65. Maybe I have to stretch it out a little more. There we go. Maybe I'll make that go down a little. Oop. Make sure to select it. I'm going to push that up a little bit. Awesome. I'm also going to make the text red. There we go. And we got to center it now. So I'm going to go ahead and center that up. Looks like the width and height is not the same. Make sure that's Or that really doesn't matter. We can keep that at 200. That's fine. I'm just going to center it. Just eyeball it. And I'm going to put that probably about right there. Let's see how that looks in game view. Yep, pretty good to me. Now again, you can customize that how much you want. That's up to you. Alright, so now we got the game over text. Perfect. Let's go ahead now and make the game over or restart button. So I'm going to right click on our panel game over. I'm going to go to UI. We're going to go all the way over to button again. Alright, we can keep everything on the button the same unless you want to customize it. You're totally welcome to, or if you have your own little sprite for it, but I'm just going to keep it as the default for now. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name though, button. I'm going to call it button restart. There we go. I'm also going to go ahead into the text of it right here. I'm going to go ahead and just say retry, or we can do play again, question mark. I like that better. And I might make it bold just so it looks a little nicer. There we go. Awesome. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. All right. Again, you can customize that if you want to. Completely up to you. All right. So far, so good. I'm going to go ahead and disable the panel game overview right now because we're not going to have that on for a little bit. Let's go ahead and disable that. But so far, I think the game looks pretty good from what we got. All right. So far, so good. Alright, I know I mentioned we're going to start scripting, but there's actually one more thing we need to do, and that's create the actual attacking animations of the player. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So let's go ahead and select our player. Alright, we're going to go to the animator right over here, and we're going to move the project right back where it was on the palette over here. I'm going to make this spread out. There we go. Alright, we need to make the attacking animations for each side now as well. I'm going to go ahead and reopen up the player. So for the face down one, let's go back into scene view. Scroll in. Alright, let's go ahead and go to the animation. Let's go ahead and create a new one. Let's just do player. Let's do attack down, so D. Actually, you know what, we'll just get rid of the player part so we can keep it shorter. Lowercase a attack and D for down. Alright, perfect. Now we want the attack down animation, so let's go ahead and find that one. So I'm going to go ahead and look for that. That's fine. I'm going to make it 4x4. There we go. Let's go ahead and find that. I think it should be this one here for, nope, that's for the wrong one. It's this one for the down one. So let's go ahead and add this. Oh, make sure we're adding it to the right one. Should be right over here. Yep. So put that there. There we go. All right, I like it. And we're going to have to go ahead and change this a little bit. So from over here, we're going to go ahead now and actually enable the weapon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and enable weapon, and we're going to open this up. Make sure you're on red here, okay? Or actually, you know what? I think we still need to add it because it didn't save it. So make sure we add the down strike with red on. There we go. Should have worked. Don't think it's working. Let's go ahead and redo that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and switch to another animation. I think it just actually switched the animation. It didn't actually switch the original one. So let's go ahead and put that back. I'm going to Control Z so we can change what we have back. There we go. All right. Let's redo that. So now let's go again back to the attack one, attack down. There we go. Make sure we have red selected. All right. Make sure we have face D right here. Go ahead, put that there, and there we go. Awesome. All right, now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and enable the weapons. So I know the weapons are disabled right now, so let's go ahead and enable them. So we're going to select the weapons, top one right here, and enable that. I know we have both, but that's because we're going to switch between them once we have the script. So let's go ahead and now put these in the right location. So I'm going to go ahead and take the bow, and I'm going to go ahead. Actually, you know what we're going to do is we're just going to keep them in that even though it's not on. So I'm going to go ahead and de-red select it. We're still in this position, which is good, so we can reorganize our things. So I'm going to take the bow. I'm going to move that down a little bit. I'm going to go like here. I am, though, going to make this order layer a little different because it's clearly not in the correct one. And you know what? Instead of doing this order one, because we don't want this behind the ground, we're going to want the player above it. So let's go ahead and increase the player one, which is this one. Let's go ahead and make that a 3. There we go. And now let's go ahead and reorganize the bow. So I'm going to zoom in really close. I'm going to make sure that our bow is something like just in front of our player, right about there. Perfect. Let's also do the sword. I'm going to take the sword. And these two should be on 2. So make sure that's on 2. And make sure this one's on 2. It's not on 2. There we go. Let's take the sword. Let's go ahead and put this right here. I'm just going to do that. So now if we switch this off, you can see the other one, which is good right there. And if we switch this one off and enable this one, that looks good there. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and re-enable both real quick. Awesome. I'm going to disable this here. And remember, when we play this, though, it's going to initiate it like that. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead, red button again. Now that everything's in the right spot, I'm going to go ahead all the way to, let's just put it at 0.1. And what we're going to do is we're going to disable it. Because when our player attacks, remember, he's only going to be doing this and then going back to the idle, okay? So we only want him to slash with either one. Now eventually we're going to have a script that's going to turn off either the bow or the sword depending on which item you have selected. Awesome. So go ahead and make sure this is there. Let's do that for each side now. So let's switch. I'm going to go ahead, disable our player. I'm going to go back to the animator and let's reorganize some things. So attack down, I'm going to put below walk down. For the player hurt, I'm just going to put in the corner right here, just for now. All right, let's do the next one. So face down is good. So we have that one. Let's go ahead and do the face right. Let's go ahead. Animations. Create a new one. We're going to call this attack, capital R for right. Perfect. Let's go ahead and open this guy up. Let's reorganize the weapons first. So I'm going to go ahead and enable the weapons. Let's go ahead and put these in the right spot. But before we do that, again, remember we need to see where our actual hand of the player is going to be. So let's go ahead and keep those enabled for now. Click on face right. Let's go ahead and red button it. Let's drag and drop the correct attack animation, which should be, I think it is this one. Yep. Let's go ahead and put that there. Perfect. Now let's go ahead, deselect the red button because we don't want to do this during the animation. This should just by default be in the right spot. Oops. Make sure you're selecting the right object. Let's go ahead, and if you remember, I think we put this at 2. We also put the sword at 2 as well, and the player, we are going to increase that to 3. There we go. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and disable, or actually the bow looks pretty good like that. I kind of like the bow like that. Maybe make it a little closer. Perfect. As for the sword, let's go ahead and put that in the same kind of spot, just right above the hand, which is right there. And remember, we can edit this later. This is just for now. All right, let's go ahead and disable this. Let's go back into the animation. Now what we're going to do again, if you remember, we are going to enable the weapons D for down. Oh, I guess we kept the name. Let's change that actually. So weapons D, this was weapons R. That might cause problems later, so make sure it's named correctly. There we go. All right, let's enable it. So we have that there. Let's go ahead and enable the weapons. There we go. And after 0.1 seconds, we're going to disable it. Awesome. All right, so far so good. So that's good for that one. Go to the animator. Now we have the new animation for the weapons or attack right. I'm going to put that right over there. Perfect. All right, looking good so far. Let's go ahead and do the next one now, which should be the left one. I'm going to disable that guy there. Let's go ahead, close that up. Go to the left one, open that up. All right, remember, first thing we got to do, of course, is change the actual layer of the sprite to 3. Remember, the weapons should both be at 2, which I think sword is already at 2. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and start this though. Go to animation. Let's go ahead, or first we'll enable this. Let's go ahead and do a new one. We'll call this attack L for left. All right, in here we're going to red. Then we're going to go ahead, find the left attack, which should be this one here. There we go. Turn off the red. Make sure the weapons are in the right spot. They're probably not there yet. Let's go ahead and drag them over, maybe one at a time. There we go. Let's put the bow, something like that. All right, and the sword, same thing. Let's make sure that's in the right spot, just right above the hand, like that. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and disable that. And back to the animation. Make sure we're in the right one. Red. All right, let's enable the weapons. There we go. After 0.1 seconds, let's disable the weapons. There we go. Awesome. Red it. There we go. Go to the animator. Let's find that new animation. should be attack L. All right, let's put it in the right spot, which should be right behind walk L. There we go. I'm going to move these again a little farther away. All right, looking better. I like it. Let's do the last one now. So let's go ahead, disable the face L. I'm going to close it up. I'm going to go to this one here. There we go. Let's enable the face up. All right, then let's go to the animation. Let's go ahead and create a new animation for this. Create new clip. We're going to call it attack, capital U for up. All right, let's red button there. Let's find the attack up animation, which I think is this one here. Is it that one? Yep, I think it is. Let's go ahead and grab him, put it there. Let's go ahead, red button. Let's go ahead and open this up and enable weapons without it being on red, remember. Let's go ahead and make sure all the weapons are in the same spot. So I'm going to move these up. Let's put the bow like over there. Oh, don't forget though, we got to remember change the layer of the original sprite of the character to 3. There we go. Make sure bow is at 2 and sword should already be at 2. Yep. All right, bow's in a pretty good spot there. I like it. Maybe a little more to the right or the left. There we go. And then of course let's do the sword as well. I'm going to move this up. Make sure the hilt is right above the hand, just like that. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and continue the animation. But first, remember, disable it here because it's going to be by default off. Awesome. Let's red button it here. Let's go ahead and enable now the weapons. There we go. And then we're going to turn them off after point 1. And there you go. Awesome. Red button it there. Perfect. Let's go ahead and disable the face up. I'm going to go ahead and enable face down. There we go. Back to the animator. Let's go ahead and find that, which should be right here, attack up. I'm going to put that right above walk up. Awesome. All right, there you go. So you should have all the animations. Now remember the one other thing we got to do for all these new animations we just created, we got to make sure we turned off the loop. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize our sprites there. Let's go ahead and find, I'll minimize that one too. Let's find all those animations. So attack up, attack down. All right, here they all are. Make sure each one is disabling the loop time, okay? Because we don't want that. There we go. Perfect. All right. So far, so good. All right. Let's go ahead and get started on the scripting part. Now, if you get confused on the scripting and you just need a source code, then go ahead and check the description. I've attached the link to the source code below. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to do, of course, is select our main player right here. We're going to go ahead and add component. We're going to do one called player controller. Go ahead and create that. It's going to open up Visual Studio Code. Give it a second. All right, we might need to double click it. There we go. All right. There we go. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off adding in some variables. So I'm going to add some space up here. Let's go ahead and start off. So first one we're going to do is a public float. This one's going to be the move speed of the player. So move speed, semicolon. Then below that, we're going to do a public rigid body 2D. It's going to be our player's rigid body 2D. RB, what was it, 2D? 2D, semicolon. Then we're also going to go ahead and do a private, capital V, vector 2. We're going to use this as the move input. So our X and Y, basically, of moving up, down, left, right, all that fun stuff. All right, so that's going to be for our player movement itself. Then we're also going to go ahead and set some bools for the direction that the player is facing. So public bool. We're going to go ahead and just call this direction right. We're going to do a public bool again. Direction left. Public bool. Whoops. Public bool. Direction up. Again. Public bool. Direction down. Awesome. Then we're also going to go ahead and have an int value that's going to be representing our direction as well. So we'll do a public int, and I'm going to call this player direction. We might not use this, but I'm just going to add it just in case. All right, apart from that, we're going to actually add the actual game objects for the player facing in those different directions. So we're going to do a public game object, and this one's going to be for the face R for right. We're going to do a public game object, face L, another one, public game object, face U for up, public game object, face D for down. Awesome. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, actually one more face, of course, is the hurt face. So public game object, face hurt. Forgot we made that one. All right, now again, we're going to do the public animator, which is going to be for the animation. So now make sure it's animator, not animation. All right, sometimes I mix that up. Animator, and we're just going to call that player animations. Oops, looks like I added a capital N right there. Let's go ahead, make that lower. There we go. Awesome. Alrighty. Next thing we're going to do is going to the actual attacking variables. So we're going to do a public bool for that we're going to set during the animation. That will simply click when we're attacking and turn it off when we're done attacking. So public bool attacking all lowercase, semicolon. We're also going to go ahead and do a public float for attack cool down time, because we don't want our player to just instantly be able to attack all the time. We want there to be a little bit of cooldown, which is kind of how most games are. And then of course we're going to do a public bool and do just attacked, so we can count when we are attacked and when we just did not attack, basically. So when we just attacked, it's going to start the timer. All right, then we are going to need something for hurting, so we're going to do a public bool because we don't want our player to move and also attack while he's hurting. So hurting. Okay, awesome. Now we need all the weapons, and this is going to be quite a lot, but it's pretty efficient once we get it going. So public game object. This one's going to be sword down, semicolon. Again, and you know what? Just to make this simpler, I'm going to copy this whole line. I'm going to go ahead, paste it, and instead of sword down, I'm going to do sword up, semicolon. Paste it again. Instead of sword down, I'm going to sword right, semicolon. Paste it again, and sword left, semicolon. Awesome. Now we need the bow one, so I'm going to paste it again below it. Instead of sword, I'm going to go ahead and do bow. So bow down, copy that whole thing, paste it again. Sword or bow up, semicolon. Instead of bow that one, I'm going to do bow right. And then again for the left one, bow left. Awesome. All right, so far so good. And then we need an int for the actual object being used, which I'm going to use an int for. Int, and we're going to call this weapon in use. So we'll have like 0 represent sword, and then we'll have 1 represent bow. And if you wanted to add more weapons over time, we could totally add more ints to represent those and turn off and on the game objects. It's pretty simple once you get used to it. All right, a couple more, and then we're done with these variables. I know this is a lot. All right, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a public game object again. This is going to be for the arrow that we're going to shoot out with the bow. So arrow prefab. And then we're also going to go ahead and do a public int. And this one's going to be for the health count, semicolon. I'm going to scoot down a little bit. And then we're also going to have a public game object for the game over screen. So game over screen. There we go. And then of course, last but not least, we need all the game objects for the hearts. So public game object, heart 1, oops, heart 1, semicolon. And I'm just going to copy this for each one. Heart 2, and then heart 3. There we go. Perfect. All right, I think we got all of our variables down. Make sure you have all the health stuff right here, the arrow prefab, all of the weapons right here. Make sure you have those down. Make sure you have the public bool for hurting and all the attacking stuff. Of course, the animations. Of course, all the facing directions. And of course, all of our ints and then bools up here. And then all of our inputs for the speed, such as the float, rigid body 2D, and vector 2. Awesome. I know that was a lot. So So go ahead and make sure you got all that in there. So far so good. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So next thing we're going to do is jump into the void start. So let's go ahead, scroll on down, go to the void start, and simply enough, we're not really going to be putting too much in here. The only thing we're going to put in here is going to be our health count. So health count, we're going to go ahead and make sure that's equal to 3 at the beginning of the game. Now, we might change that down the road, but for now, that's what we want to stand at. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and start adding some things in our void update. There's quite a few things in there, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing what we're going to do is actually start it with a conditional of an if statement for our health count, because we don't want our character to be moving or basically doing anything when he's out of health. So let's go ahead and create that with some parentheses. We're going to say health count. If health count is greater than 0, we're going to go ahead and open it up. So inside these brackets, we're going to be adding quite a few things. First thing we're going to do, we're going to say if parentheses health count is equal to 3, then we're going to go ahead and make all the hearts visible. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do heart1 dot set active, wherever that is, set active, there we go, parentheses true. So we're going to do this for each one of the hearts because we want to make sure those are all set to true. So let's go ahead and copy that whole line. Let's paste one there and paste one there for each heart. If you remember, we have 3 hearts, so we're going to do heart 2, and then we're going to do heart 3 right here. Now, if you remember, the heart 3 is on the outside, so this is the first one we're going to turn off when the health goes down. So then from here, we're going to do an else if, parentheses, open that up. Now within here, we're going to go ahead and put the same line, but of course, we're going to change this to equals 2. So let's go ahead, paste that there, equal it to 2. And the only difference between the one above is we are simply going to make the number 3 one disabled. So let's go ahead and make that false to disable it. Perfect. Let's go ahead and copy that whole line here so we don't need to copy everything again from the else if all the way down to the closing bracket of it. I'm going to paste that right there. And this one again is going to be for 1. And all we're going to do is make the set active of heart 2 false. So let's go ahead, add that there. Perfect. Let's copy that whole thing again. I'm going to paste it right there below it. All right. And what we're going to do for this one now is we're going to make it equal to 0, but just in case we get a minus below 0 because we bump into 2 enemies at the same time or something, we're going to go ahead and say less than or equal to 0 by doing a less than equal and then make that 0. There we go. And we're going to make all these false, so let's go ahead and set that to false also. Awesome. All right, so far so good. I like it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and work into the weapons. So let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be for the if statement of which weapon is going to be active. We're not actually going to initiate it yet. We just want to do a check for it. So if you recall, I have a weapon in use number. So let's go ahead and do another if statement below that one. Make some room. Let's actually label this. We could do, let's call this the heart controller. So / heart controller, just so we know what we're doing here. There we go. All right, now still inside of that original if, we're going to add that thing for the weapon counter. So let's go ahead and do a double slash. And let's go ahead and do the weapons in use so we know which one we're talking about. And then we're going to start a new if statement. All right, so this if statement is going to be the weapons in use. If weapons in use equals 0, then we're going to go ahead and set all of our current weapons in use of the swords to true. So this is going to be quite a bit. Let's go ahead and start it off with the sword down dot set active. And we're going to make that true. There we go. Semicolon. Let's do the next one, which is going to be sword left. Or it doesn't matter which one you do as long as it's all the swords are active. So set active. Make that true. Semicolon. Then we're going to do another sword. Maybe we could use sword right. Dot set active. Make that equal true. Semicolon. Another one, sword up, because we don't have that one. Yep. Dot set active, make that equal true, semicolon, perfect. All right, and that should be good for these swords. Now we got to do the bows. So remember, all the bow ones are going to be on false, but let's go ahead and get those down there. So we're going to say bow down first, dot set active, make that equal false, semicolon, bow left, dot set active, make that also equal false. There we go. Let's do the other two. what is it, bow left, so we're on bow right, dot set active, make that equal false, semicolon, and then bow up, I think we don't have that one yet, dot set active, and make that equal false as well. And I think we should be good there. Yep, awesome. So that's going to be for if the weapon in use is equal to 0. Now we have to do, of course, another one for if it equals 1, which then we're going to have all the bows true and the other one's false. So let's do another else if. So else if, parentheses, and then we're going to say weapon in use equals 1. Open that up. And so we don't have to redo this whole thing. Let's just copy all this, paste that in here, and simply enough, change all the trues to false and the false to true. So I'm going to go ahead and type in false. Just going to copy that, Control C, paste it in for there, paste it in for there, paste it in for there. And this one here, we're going to set to true, because we want all the bow ones to be true instead of false. Awesome. All right, so far so good. So now we have the weapons in use if statement created, and we also have the if statements for the heart controller, and then the original health count. Make sure you got all that down. I know that was a lot. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So what we're going to be doing now is actually the moving direction and facing it and playing the animation when we do that. So this is still going to be inside this if statement here, so make sure you're still inside the bracket right over here. All right, so I'm going to add a couple enters here. Now we're going to do the moving right one first. Let's go ahead and label that. I'm going to say moving right. There we go. Now this one, once we're done, we can just copy and paste it for each one. So it's pretty easy after we get the first one done. So let's go ahead and create an if statement there. Inside of there, we're going to put move input, not move speed, move input. There we go, move input. And we're going to go ahead and do move input if dot x is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and have it do its thing. So inside of here, if our character's x value is greater than 0, then the first thing we're going to do is start off with the direction right. Let's go ahead and find that, direction right. We're going to equal that to true. There we go, semicolon. Below that, we're going to go ahead and do the direction down. And if you guessed it, we're going to set that to false. Then below that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do direction left. Again, set that to false. We're going to go ahead, do direction up. We're going to go ahead, set that to false also. Perfect. And we're going to do face R. If you remember that game object we have, that's for our facing R of our person. We're going to do a set active. And again, this one here is going to be set to true. So make sure you got that there, semicolon, perfect. All right, and then we got to do the same thing for the rest of the faces for the false one, because of course this one's just going to be for the right. I'm going to copy that whole line there. I'm going to change this one to the, let's do face left and set that to false. I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to change the face L to this one. This one we can do the face down, wherever that is. Oop. Face down, there we go. Face down, set to false, perfect. And now we just need the face up. Let's go ahead and set that as well. Face up. Where is that? There it is. Awesome, perfect. All right, make sure you have all those there, perfect. Now again, we have the hurt face as well, so make sure we have that as well. This is going to be the face hurt. And then again, we want to set that to false as well, because the only one here, again, is going to be the right one. All right, now that we have that, we just need the animation play, and that's pretty simple. Simply enough, we can do player animations, dot capital P, play, and then we're going to set it to the walk right, which I think was just walk capital R. Now make sure when you put it in here for the animation, we have to put quotes around it, okay? Just like that, or it's not going to work. All right, and remember, if we want to double check this, simply enough, we can go here, zoom in, make sure it's walk capital R, and we'll do the rest for these ones as well. Awesome. I'm going to click back into the script. Let's go ahead and finish off the walking. Might just be loading all those changes we just made. There we go. All right, awesome. All right, from here now, let's go ahead and do the next couple. So we have the moving right and moving up and moving down. So simply enough, we can just go ahead and copy all this here. I'm gonna go ahead, paste this below. This one's gonna be moving, let's do moving left. All right, and simply for the actual if statement, the only thing we need to do is of course make this the other way around. Because now it's gonna be if any value of x is greater than, the character is gonna move left. All right, and actually, you know, I think that's actually reversed because we have right. Yeah, we'll change it later if we need to. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and do the next value. So of course, the direction right is going to now be set to false, but the direction, where is left? Left is going to be set to true. All right, awesome. Make sure that's there, perfect. Now again, this game object face R is going to be false now, so go ahead and do that there. But the face L1 is going to be set to true. All right, let's do that, perfect. And don't forget, last but not least, the walk animation. We got to set that to the walk capital L for left. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and copy the whole thing again. Let's go ahead and paste that below. I'm going to change this to moving up. Awesome. And now that we're using up, we need to, of course, change the x value of our if statement right here to a y value because it's going to be on the y plane. So let's do y there. And because we're moving up, we are going to be greater than. So let's go ahead, put that there. Perfect. All right, now let's go ahead and make the direction left false as well this time. But we're going to make the direction up equal true. All right, and then for the actual game object itself, we're again going to make the face L false. And we're going to make the face U true. Don't forget we need the actual animation, which is just going to be walk capital U. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and copy the whole thing and do the last one. Let's go ahead, paste that below. Now again, because we're going to move down, we're going to go less than, and don't forget to label it correctly right over here to down. Perfect. Let's go ahead and make that direction up to false. And way down here, we're going to make this false as well. Perfect. And the actual down face D is going to be true. Make the animation also set to walk D, and we should be all set. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Make sure you got all those directions down. Looking good so far. All right, let's go ahead and do the next part now. This part we're going to go ahead and do the weapon changing, and then we're also going to go ahead and do the walking start if statement. So let's go ahead. Still inside of the original health one that we have here, so it should be the one in between here, right over here. We're going to go ahead, hit enter, and now we're going to do another if statement. This if statement is going to be for changing the weapon, so we're going to use the 1 and 2 key on the top left of the keyboard to do that. To do that, simply enough, we're going to type in capital I input dot capital G get key. From there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pass in key. Was it key code? Yep, key code dot alpha, and we're going to do alpha 1. All right, awesome. So alpha 1 is going to represent, again, the top key right on the 1. Then from there, we're going to go ahead, open that up with some curly brackets. Awesome. So in here, simply enough, we're just going to go ahead and give the weapon in use, and we're going to equal that to the 0. All right, so this one's going to make it the sword one. Make sure to end it with a semicolon, just like that. Perfect. All right, and we're going to do a similar thing right over here. We're going to do another if statement. So let's just copy this whole thing here. We're going to paste it right below it. Now in here, we're going to go ahead and make this alpha 2. So the 1 and 2 key that you can use to switch in between the weapons. Now again, we need to change the weapon in use. If you remember, this one here is going to equal 1 for the bow. Awesome. All right, make sure you got that down. Perfect. So far, so good. All right, now let's go ahead and start creating the actual movement if statement. So still inside that original one for the health count, which again is going to be right here. We're going to go ahead and do an if statement. So we want if. And if you remember the bool that we created for attacking, because we don't want the player to move when he's attacking. So we're going to say if attacking equals false. Make sure to spell, there we go, false. And then we're going to add 2 and symbols because we're also going to want to add another check here as well, which is the hurting. So if attacking equals false and hurting double equals false, then we can go ahead and have our player move. All right, awesome. I'm going to go ahead, open that up. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is actually calculate the movement. So we're going to be using the rigid body that we have and using the vertical and horizontal axis. So basically we can move with the A, W, D, and S key and also the arrow pad key as well. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So simply enough, we're going to use the move input, and this is going to be move input.x. So we're representing basically the side-to-side movement using the AD or the right or left arrow. We're going to go ahead and equal that to capital I input, and we're going to use dot get axis raw, capital R. There we go. And inside of here, to calculate all the different left and right movements keys, we're going to go ahead and just type in horizontal in between quotes. All right, awesome. Make sure it's spelled correctly. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and semicolon. Now for the Y, it's pretty much the same thing. We just copy that whole thing. We're going to go ahead, paste it below. And instead of the X here, we're going to go ahead and use the Y. And instead of horizontal, this one's going to be vertical. So go ahead, type in capital V vertical. There we go. Awesome. All right, now apart from that, we need to add one more calculation in here for our movement. And this is going to be, again, the move input that we have. We're going to do move input dot normalize, all right, and give it some empty parentheses. All right, again, this is just helping it calculate the movement. We just need that to help define the movement as well. All right, now, of course, we need to check some other things as well when we do this. We're going to go ahead over here, and we're going to do another if statement. Inside this if statement, we're going to go ahead and use capital M, math. Is it math? Yep, math F dot ABS, parentheses. Inside of there, we're going to do, again, movement input dot X. And we're going to go ahead and do a if movement input X is greater than math F dot abs. Within, we're going to use move input dot Y. Now, what is this doing? So specifically what this check is checking is it's making sure that we are not checking on two movements at the same time, because we don't want our character in this type of game to move diagonally, either when pressing the AW or SD at the same time, or the two different arrow directions as well. So this is preventing it when using the X value one, okay? Now, what do we do when this happens? What we're going to do simply enough is we are going to set the move input dot Y, and we're going to set that to 0 because we don't want our Y-axis moving when our X-axis is moving, all right? And then now we are going to add the actual movement of those, which is going to be the rigid body 2D that we created, dot velocity. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to equal that to move input times move speed. Nope, that's the wrong one. Move speed. There we go. Perfect. All right. Perfect. So that's checking to make sure that we're not moving any other direction when we're typing in the X key, which is the X value, which is either, again, AD or the right or left arrow. Now we need the same thing again for the Y one. So let's go ahead and add that one, and pretty much the same thing. So let's go ahead and copy the whole thing here. And actually, you know what? Instead of copying the whole thing, we can simply just do an else, okay? So let's do that. Let's add an else there. Let's go ahead and open that up. So in the else, we're just going to do the complete opposite. So we're going to copy our values we have here, and we're going to go ahead and paste these in, and we're just going to switch it. So instead of the Y value here, we're going to go ahead and put the X. Then from there, we're going to go ahead and keep everything else the same. Awesome. All right, make sure you got that down. Pretty good so far. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and finish up the if statement for moving the character and then get started on the attacking one. All right, so we have two more if statements we need inside this moving one. So right underneath this one, still above that one right here. So make sure you have at least 1, 2, 3, 4 right above it, right over here. From here on line 197, we're going to go ahead and create another if statement. This one here is going to be just for the idle position. So we're going to do if move input dot Y double equals 0, two and symbols, move input dot X double equals 0. Then we're going to want to go ahead and we're going to do the player animation dot capital P play, and within it we're going to put the player idle. All right, semicolon. Now remember, this is the default animation because if our player is not moving in any direction, we want to send him back to the one where he's not moving. Let's double check the name. Make sure it's player idle. Yep, looks like it is that right there, as you can tell. Let's go back into Visual Studio Code. Perfect. All right. Now from here, we need one more if statement inside of the entire moving one, and that is going to be the attack timer. So let's go ahead and put that here. it's going to be another if statement right over here. So we're going to do an if, parentheses, just attacked. So if the player just attacked, and we're going to go ahead and set that true, and attack cooldown time is greater than 0, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to do attack cooldown time minus equals time dot delta time. Now all this is doing is basically setting our timer into real time. So every second of the time in the actual game or life, then it's going to go ahead and -1 for each one. That's why we're doing this, all right? So we need this timer here so we can have our activation of our timer. You're going to see this in action once we have everything done. So our player just can't keep attacking endlessly. And of course, then again, this was here for the idle position, which is super important so our player doesn't just keep walking infinitely. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the next one. This one is going to be outside of this one here. We're no longer going to be inside of the if statement for attacking false and hurting false. So we're going to be outside of this one right here. So I'm going to add an enter there. Perfect. And we're going to be creating a new one here, and this is going to be for the actual attacking. So let's go ahead and do that. We need a couple if statements though for this, because we don't want our player to just attack all the time. We're going to do an input. So input, we're going to do get key, pass in some parentheses. We're going to do capital key code. Inside of here, we're going to do dot capital S space. So the space key is going to be our attack key basically. And we're going to also add 2 and symbols. So we don't want our player to attack when the cooldown time is not either equal to or less than 0. And we also don't want to attack when our player is in the hurting animation. So if he's hurting equals false. So if that equaled true, then of course we don't want to be able to attack with our player. All right, so make sure you got all that in there. Perfect. Now next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the direction. So let's go ahead and do an if, parentheses, direction. We're going to do direction up first. So if direction up. Now if we just keep it inside of here with no equals to true, that is just going to by default think it's equal to true. Okay, so if we have an if statement with a value in it just like this, it's going to assume that this is looking for it if it equals true. Okay, just an easier way to keep things quick and simple. All right, so now inside of here, we're going to go ahead and do the player animations dot play. And then we're going to go ahead inside parentheses, double quotes, and then we're going to pass in the animation for attacking up. Okay, now let's double check what that animation is. So I'm going to go back in. So for our attacking animation, it's going to be a lowercase attack capital U. Okay, so make sure we have that in there. It's not going to work. Let's jump back into the code. So lowercase attack capital U, just like that. Perfect. All right, now we're going to add a couple else ifs for each direction. So let's do an else if. Else if, parenthesis. We're going to go ahead and do direction. We could do direction down. Then we're going to go ahead, open that up. Again, we're going to copy this here, paste this here, and remember the attack instead of attack U, this one I'm pretty sure is attack D for that. Perfect. So let's do the whole thing again. Let's do the next direction. Paste that in there. Instead of direction up, we could do direction right, and then attack capital R for the animation. Perfect. Let's do the last one now. Let's go ahead and copy that, paste that there. This one will be the last one, which is direction left. And make sure this is attack capital L. Awesome. All right, looking good so far. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and finish up the attacking one. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to do one for the weapon use. So still inside the attacking one right over here. We're going to go ahead and hit a couple enters. All right, now we're going to go ahead, and we are going to add something now for the weapon changing. So let's do an if. Let's go ahead inside of here. We're going to go ahead and do a if statement for direction up. And actually, you know what? I think we can just reuse this. We don't need to make a whole new if statement for this. We could do direction. Oh no, this one's for the weapon. That's why we need this one. Okay, let's go ahead and do this then. All right, we're going to do an if statement. And in that if statement, we're going to go ahead and do weapon in use. If weapon in use equals 1, which is the bow, we're going to want to, of course, set some things and initiate certain things. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. And we're going to do a similar thing to what we did with the directions. We're going to do an if. We're going to do direction up. So if direction up, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to have to initiate an object, and this is going to be the arrow we're going to shoot out of the player. So we're going to do an initiate. Inside that initiate, we're going to go ahead and do our arrow prefab that we're going to generate later. We're going to go ahead and do a transform, which is going to be the transform of the player currently, dot position, comma, and then we're going to use quantiron, this one right here. I can always say that wrong. There we go. We're going to go ahead and do dot Euler. All right. And then from there, we're going to create a new, inside parentheses, new vector3. And we're going to go ahead, give it some parentheses, and give it the 3 values, which is going to be a 0, 0, 270, which is going to basically initiate the object upwards, okay? That's why we're doing the 270, because it's kind of like the rotation. All right, awesome. So make sure you have that there. Put a semicolon at the end. Awesome. Now we need to do this for each direction. So I'm going to copy this whole if statement, and right below it, I'm going to go ahead and do another one. And instead of direction up, I'm going to go ahead and do a direction, well, this one's going to be a direction down. So let's do direction down. And I think I mixed up the up value one. It's not actually supposed to be 270 here. This one here is going to be just 90 for up, okay? So make that one 90, but you can leave this one 270. But anyway, this one direction, nope, oh wait, this one was direction down, not up. Yeah, down. All right, make sure that's down. There we go. We got direction up and then direction down. All right, but everything else the same. The only thing we're changing again is the 90 for this one here and then the 270 for this one here. Okay, awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do another one. Let's do the direction right. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, paste it below. We're going to go ahead and do direction right. From direction right, we're going to go ahead, and the only thing we're going to change is the actual value. And because our sprite is already facing right, we're not going to change anything. So I'm just going to keep it at 0, just like that. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do the last one, which is the direction left. Let's go ahead, do direction left. There we go. And the direction left is just going to be 180 for this value. Awesome. All right, make sure 180 is there for that one, 0 for that one, 270 for that one, and then 90 for this one over here. Awesome. All right, so far so good for there. Now that's going to be everything for the weapon in use statement right here. All right, so we are though going to go ahead and do the enter again. We're still inside the weapons attack statement. We're going to go ahead and now add the actual freezing of the movement. So we don't want our player moving when he's attacking, and that might look kind of funny for the kind of game we're making. So let's go ahead and do a move input dot y, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to equal that to 0 because we don't want the y value 0. We want to do the same thing now for the x value as well. Dot x equals 0 as well. Perfect, semicolon. All right, now we're going to do again the rigid body 2D. We're going to set the dot velocity, and we're going to make that equal move input times move speed, which is basically going to be nothing because we have no values for these, but that's what we want. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to set attack cooldown time, and we're going to equal that to 0.3 f seconds, which I think is a pretty good speed time. Make sure you have an equal sign here though, by the way. It looks like I put a minus. Oops, not a minus. There you go. Just an equal sign. All right, that's for the cooldown attack time. Now we're also going to do the just attacked, and we're going to set that to true. Just attack, and we're going to go ahead and equal that to true. Perfect, semicolon. I like it. Awesome. All right, now we just need basically 2 more things though for our entire thing we're making. And simply enough, we're just going to add an if statement outside of the attacking one right here. So make sure this one's the attacking one, remember, right there. We're going to add an if statement outside of there, but still inside the one we're working in with the health one. We're going to go ahead and do if, parentheses, hurting equals false. All right, so if hurting equals false, then we're going to go ahead, open that up. If it equals false, then we're going to do the face hurt dot set active, and we're going to make that true. Awesome. All right, perfect. So make sure you have that in there. Make sure it's in the right spot, just like that. All right. Now again, we are going to go ahead and make an actual else for our main if statement. So if you remember, if we scroll all the way up, this line here, the one I'm circling, if you scroll all the way up, it's going to be connected to that original if statement we made for the health count being greater than 0, okay? So let's go all the way down now. And what we're going to make is an if statement for that one, which is right here. We're going to make an else, or not an if, from the if statement, we're making an else. We're going to go ahead, open that up. So else, so if the player's health basically is out and the game is in the game over state, then we're going to want to do a game over screen. All right. We're going to do a set active, and we're going to make the game over screen equal true because now it's game over. Perfect. From there, we're going to go ahead and set all the hearts off as well. So we're going to do heart 1 dot set active, make that false, and the same thing for each one. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste each one below so we can use them just like that. Perfect. This one's going to be 2, and again, this one's going to be 3. All right, so far so good. So we just completed the void update. I know that was a lot. Remember, if you get confused, I attached the code to the description of the video. Awesome. All right, so far so good. All right, we're super close and almost done. We only have 2 more functions we need to make outside of the void update one, but they're pretty easy and pretty small. So this is the void update closing statement right here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add an enter there where we can add another one. Now this one here is going to be simple. It's just going to be a private void, and we're going to do an on collision enter 2D. This one here should auto-populate the rest. Going to have that collision 2D and the regular collision here. All right, now inside of here, simply enough, what we're going to do is we're going to do an if parentheses collision dot game object dot compare tag, because we're going to be looking for a tag when we collide with another 2D object, and that tag is going to be parentheses, of course, quotes, and we're going to use the enemy tag that we're going to attach to our enemy unit. All right, awesome. So make sure you have that there. Perfect. So any game object you give the tag of enemy and it has a box collider, then it will initiate anything inside of this if statement, okay? That's what this is doing here. Now we also have other on collision enter, we have on collision exit, we have on trigger enter, on trigger exit, all those different ones. Now remember, we're using a 2D game, so it has to have that 2D there for it to work in our game. All right, now inside of here, of course, the first thing we're going to do is minus our player's health. So let's go ahead and do a health count. And to minus, just one simple way to do it is just double minus signs and a semicolon. All right, that'll minus 1 from it. We're also going to go ahead and initiate hurting, and we're going to set hurting and equal that to true. All right, because now our player is hurting, so set that to true. Then we're also going to go ahead and do the face hurt, and we're going to do a set active for that, and we're going to set that to true. All right, perfect. And we're going to need to set all the other faces to false. Let's see if we can grab those. I think we had them up here or something. Let's see if we can find them. I think we had a bunch. Yep, here's all our faces. I'm just going to grab all those there. All right, I'm going to scroll down, and I think they should all equal false already if I go over here and paste them. Yep, so face R, set active false, face L, set active false, face D, set active false, and face U, set active false. Awesome. Oh, that one wasn't false. Make sure we make it false. There we go, perfect. So the only one here that should be true is, of course, the face hurt. Awesome. All right, the next thing we want to do, of course, is play the animation for hurt. So we're going to do player animations dot capital P play. We're going to pass in some parentheses. In those parentheses, we're going to go ahead and set the actual animation for hurting. And if we jump back into the game, let's let that load. Give it a second. All right, find the hurting one, which is just lowercase player hurt. All right, awesome. Let's jump back into the script. So lowercase player, capital H hurt. Awesome. Semicolon at the end of that. Perfect. All right, now last thing we need to do is actually add the knockback to our player, because when our player runs into a tag with enemy that has a box collider 2D, then we're going to want our player to back away from that once he gets hit, okay? Now to do that, we're going to use the transform, which is from our player, transform dot position. All right, we're going to equal that to capital V vector 2, and we're going to do move towards, oh, don't forget the period, dot move towards, parentheses, transform dot position, colon, comma, collision dot game object, which is the game object that we're running into, dot transform of that game object dot position of that game object, and we're going to do a comma. So that's going to find the position of that enemy we just ran into, and then we're simply going to go ahead and give us a minus towards him. So we're going to be moving away from him at 70 times time dot delta time. All right. So now that's a long little piece of code, but basically all it's doing is it's creating a new transform that is supposed to move towards whatever transform position of the player, which is this here is getting the player that we just ran into, by negative 70 times dot delta time. So he's moving them away by 70 points. All right. So that's how we're going to have our knockback. And it looks pretty good once I show you how to use it, or it's going to already be used, but once I show you how it works in the game, it'll look a lot better and it'll be more easily understood. Awesome. All right, so make sure you got that down. Let's go ahead and do one more function. This is going to be the one where basically we're going to restart the game. Super simple. So simply enough, we're just going to do a public void, and this is going to be the restart game. Give it some parentheses. Open that up. Inside of there, we're going to use something called Scene Manager, and this is actually not imported yet inside of our script because we didn't add it. If you remember, we go all the way at the top, right up here, right underneath using Unity Engine, and we need to add using Unity Engine dot scene management. All right, make sure you have this here, or we're not going to be able to use that utility. All right, using Unity Engine. Using Unity Engine dot scene management. All right, make sure you have that there. Perfect. Let's scroll all the way down. Now, if we're from here at the bottom inside our little function, we're going to go ahead, capital S scene manager dot load scene, and we're going to load the scene of number 0 because that's the only scene we have and the current scene that our game's in. Awesome. So when we press this button, it's going to initiate the load scene of 0. Awesome. All right, I know that was a lot. Make sure you got all that down, especially this knockback. Make sure you got everything here for that. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead, jump back into the Unity editor. So let's go ahead, minimize this. All right, so now that we got the player script completed, we might need to edit a few bugs if we have any, but first we have to create one more script, and that's just for the arrow prefab, all right? Basically, that's going to have the arrow move once we initiate it and put it into the real game. So let's go ahead and just drag and drop that into our game real quick. I'm going to do that right here. Just drag and drop it right here. As you can tell, there's a little arrow. I like it. Do we need to edit the sprite? I don't think so. Yep, looks like we already have it edited. Nice. All right, let's go ahead and add this script to the arrow. So we're going to go ahead and create a component. Let's go ahead and give this a name. I'm just going to call this arrow script. And this is a pretty small script. We're just going to give it movement and then a duration of that movement. Oops, looks like it didn't open up the script. Let's go ahead and let that load. All right, let's double click in it. All right, so we're going to only add a few things in here. Right at the top, we're going to add one variable. Simply enough, we're going to do a public float, and we're going to call this speed, which is just going to be speed of the arrow. I'm going to do 3.5f, and you can adjust this as need be. I just think this is a good one for what we're using it for. Semicolon. All right, and we're only really going to be putting stuff in the void update, which is going to be the actual movement. So let's go ahead and add that. We're going to go ahead and do an if statement. Inside the if statement, we're going to do a transform dot position, because we're going to look and see which position it's at. We're going to say if that equals the quaternion irregular new vector 3 and then whatever value. So basically we're just looking for that value we set in the first place, and we can check that easily and grab it from our player controller if you scroll all the way back up to these right over here. So pretty much all we're doing is grabbing this piece of code. So from this one here, this is the direction up. We're just going to go ahead and grab this here. All right, so make sure you got that. I'm going to control copy that. I'm going to go back into here and I'm going to paste it right there. Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's make sure we open that up and make sure we have everything else we need in here. I think we have most of it. Doesn't like it. Why doesn't it like it? Oh, you know why? Because we did dot position, because we're looking for the rotation of the object, not the position. So let's type in rotation. There we go. All right, so far so good. So we're looking for the rotation of the object. Now we're going to go ahead and for this one here in particularly, I want to do it and start off at the 271. So let's do that, 270. And now inside of it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a transform dot translate, should be all the way down here, there we go, translate, double parentheses, transform, dot up, because we're going to be moving it up over time, times the speed, that's our float value, times time dot delta time. All right, awesome. All right, make sure you got that in there, perfect. All right, so that's going to be for the one, I think that's moving either up or left or something. We'll see it happen, no worries. We're going to do one for each one anyway. Oh, that one's moving up, definitely. All right, let's go ahead and copy this whole thing here. We're going to copy that, paste it below. Now this one here is going to be for the 90 value, so let's change that to 90, perfect. Then over here to the transform.translate, make sure it is, what is it, up? So it's up. So we actually don't have a down, so instead of making it down, simply enough what we can do is make this minus speed. All right, awesome. So now it's going to go in reverse, the same. Let's go ahead and do another one now. Let's copy this, paste this below. Now for this one, it's going to just move right. So we're going to go ahead and make these values equal 0. There we go. And we are going to change the negative back to a positive, but we are going to add right here because we do have right. All right, so make that go right. Awesome. All right, now let's do the last one, which is just left. Let's go ahead, copy that, paste that below. And again, this Z value for this is going to be 180. All right. And all we're going to do is simply add a minus sign to the speed. All right, perfect. All right, so far so good. Make sure you have all that down. This is all going to help the actual arrow prefab move over. So go ahead, make sure that's there. Make sure you have the float value as well. Perfect. Let's go back into Unity. And to make the arrow an actual prefab, it's pretty simple. All we need to do is just drag and drop it into our project. So let's go ahead, open this up. I'm going to find just an area. It can be anywhere. Take that arrow. Let's drag and drop it into here. And there you go. There's our arrow prefab. Awesome. All right. So far, so good. All right. Let's go ahead and attach all the objects now to the script that we have. So let's go ahead into our player. Now, if you've noticed, we have quite a few spots we need to enter. Let's go ahead and add these up. I think this is looking for a rigid body 2D on the top right here. We haven't added that to our player yet. Make sure you're on the original one right here. Let's go ahead and add that. So let's do a rigid body 2D. There we go. The only thing we're going to change in the rigid body 2D is the gravity scale. We're going to go ahead and change that to 0 because this is a top-down game, so gravity doesn't really play a part in this. So go ahead and add that there. Another thing we could add also is a box collider 2D. So let's go ahead and add a box collider 2D. Perfect. All right. Now go ahead and make sure it's surrounding the player. I think it should be if you zoom in. If not, we might have to stretch it out. Looks like it is not. So let's go ahead and move it around. If it's not playing nice, then we can go ahead. Why is it so small? Let's go ahead. There we go. You might have to stretch it out. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and make sure it's completely around our player. It doesn't have to be all the way to the corners. I just kind of want a box in between. We will adjust this later on. But for now, this should be good. All right. Awesome. And there we go. Again, make sure that gravity scale was set to 0. Perfect. All right. Now that we have our rigid body 2D and the box collider, let's go roll all the way up back to the RB 2D. Let's drag and drop our player into that. So right over here, drag and drop. Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead. We can leave player direction, all these other things the same. Face right. We need face right. So let's open up the player. Let's take the face R, which is face right. Drag and drop it into there. Let's find the face L. Drag and drop face L into there. Perfect. Let's do face U. Drag and drop it into there. And face D. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into there. Face hurt, let's drag and drop that into there. Animations, it's also attached to the player, so we simply have to go ahead, take the player, drag and drop that into there. Perfect. Scroll on down. Let's go ahead and now do the rest of them, which is the swords and stuff. So first one, face D, let's go ahead and do that one. So open that up. So for the bow D, let's go ahead and find that. Let's do bow down. There you go. This is the sword up. Let's go ahead and find that one. Sword up. There you go. Let's do the next one. Oh, that's the hurt face. We can do, there we go, face right. So bow right. Let's find that. Bow right, which is right here. Let's go ahead and do the, what is it? Sword right. Let's find that one. Sword right. Awesome. Let's do the face left ones now. So bow left. Let's find the bow left. There it is. Let's go ahead and find bow or sword right, or, sorry, sword left. There we go, right there, perfect. We could have labeled these just to make it a little nicer, but oh well. Let's do the face U one now, so bow U. Where is that? Looks like it, bow left, bow, there we go. There we go, bow up, all right, there we go. And then make sure we have it for the sword up as well, which is right on the top. Perfect. All right, make sure you got all that down. If you messed it up, no worries. You can go in there and fix it real quick if you need to. All right, weapon in use, we'll keep that at 0. Arrow prefab, you remember where that is. It's right over here. So let's go ahead and take that arrow prefab and drag and drop that into there. Perfect. Let's go ahead and game over screen. We know where that is. It's right inside our canvas. Let's go ahead, find that game over panel. There we go. This is it. Put that over there. Let's get the hearts in there. Let's open up, or nope, hearts over here. So heart 1, we'll put that on heart 1. Heart 2, we'll put that on heart 2. Heart 3, we'll put that on heart 3. Awesome. All right, so we should have filled out everything so far. That's pretty good to me. I like it. All right, so far so good. All right, before we test out the game, let's go ahead and fix a couple bugs I saw. So the first bug I noticed that we forgot to do is we forgot to set our player's actual move speed right over here. It should not be at 0. We need to put that to something. I'm going to go ahead and put it at 6 just to make it simple. All right, awesome. All right, another thing I noticed is in the hurt animation, if we go to the face hurt right here, we'll actually go ahead to its animation. So select player, then let's go to animation. Let's go ahead and select the hurt one, which should be player hurt. All right, let's red button it. Now, one thing we need to set when we are playing our hurt animation, so I'm going to go to hurt, we need to set the hurting. All right, so from the player, while still in red, we're going to go from the beginning of hurting animation, and we're going to go ahead and just initiate the hurting, which should be right here. There we go, and then we will turn it off at the end right over there. Perfect. All right, go ahead, red button that. Perfect. Awesome. Another thing I noticed, that's inside the script itself. So let's go ahead and open up the script. I'm going to do that. All right, I noticed a couple things we made a mistake on. If you scroll down a little bit, we're going to go ahead all the way to our look direction for, I think it is not there, should be the look left one. Yeah, look left. Nope, not look left. It might be look down. We forgot to put a true for one of these. Yep, right here. So in the moving down, right over here, we have to make sure we actually set the direction to true for looking down. So that should be direction down, wherever that is, right over here. Set that to true. Okay, awesome. All right, make sure you have that in there. Maybe you caught it before, no worries. Another thing I noticed that we messed up, if we scroll all the way back down again, should be right over here. If hurting equals false, then we of course want to set face hurt dot set active to true, but that's wrong because remember we want to set that to true if hurting equals true. All right, so make sure you have that changed there. All right, make sure if hurting equals true instead of false, okay? Awesome. All right, and then the last thing we have, if you scroll back up, all the way up here, I did this also, I just forgot the T in horizontal, all right? So make sure you have that there. Make sure these two are spelled correctly or the player is not gonna move correctly, all right? Save those changes. Awesome. And remember, I posted the code in the description so you can copy and paste it if you'd like also. Awesome. All right, let's go back into the game. Let that load. Awesome. And then the last thing we need to change is just on the actual arrow prefab. So inside our project over here, let's go ahead and find that. All we got to do is change the layer of the arrow. So I'm going to go ahead and raise that up. I'm going to do let's do like a layer 3. It should just be a layer right behind the player itself. So if we go to player, we should be able to see that. Our player, order in layer, well, not our player layer, but the face layers are 3, so let's make that a 2 for the arrow, okay? So I'm going to make the order and layer for arrow equal 2. Awesome. All right, perfect. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and play and actually view the game. All right, so there's the little arrow prefab we had running, no worries. Now let's go ahead and try moving the character with the AWSD key, and there you go. Looks like his animation is working pretty well too. I like it. If we tap it, should be moving pretty simple. He's a little fast, but no worries. We're just testing everything out. Awesome. Now let's see if we can attack with our player by using the space key. Looks like it's a little fast from the animation. It's working, as you can tell, but it's not working as we want it to. We might edit it. Let's see if we can change the weapon with the 2 key. And yep, there you go. Looks like it's also a little fast as well. Looks like it's not playing on the left side, or maybe it is. We can see if it's playing if you go to animator. Let's see if it's playing. I think it is from the left side. Yep, you can see it flash a little bit. The problem is the animation is just too fast. Now let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Let's go into the animation. Let's go to the player. Let's go ahead and find the player hurt. There we go. Let's go ahead and increase this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and increase it up to 40 there. And then let's do a 20 here. Oh, this is for the hurting one. Whoops, my mistake. We're actually going to go ahead and do it for the attacking ones. So let's go ahead into the attacking ones, which should be attack here and here. Yep, looks like we're only doing 0.1 second. No wonder why it's very fast. Let's go ahead and move that up to 25 for each one. So attack D and attack L. Let's do the 25 as well for that. Let's go ahead and do the next one. 0.25. Let's go ahead and find that. There we go. And you can adjust these as you like. That's completely up to you. Let's go ahead and find this one as well. 0.25. There we go. Perfect. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and hit play and see how this looks now. All right, we have our player. Let's see if he can attack a little better. Looks like it's still flashing. Now there might be some issue with the code, so let's double check that. Alright, so the fix we could do actually is go into the animations, not the code. All we have to do is set attacking when the player is attacking. So again, let's go to the animations, attack D. Let's go ahead, let's set attacking to true. So we have attacking, which is one of our bools around here. There you go. We're going to set that, perfect. And then we'll turn it off right at the end. Perfect. Let's do all the other ones as well. So starting attacking, let's go ahead, enable that. Then we're going to go ahead, disable that. Let's do the next one. Red button. We're going to enable attacking. Disable it here. Do it again for the last one. Let's enable it here. And then disable it here. Awesome. Alright, that should fix the issue. Let's go ahead back into the game now. Hit play. Let's see what happens. Let that load. Alright, we have our player running around, pretty good. Let's see what happens if he attacks, and there you go. Looks like now he can attack, and it's a decent amount of time. Perfect. Let's see if he can fire an arrow. I'm going to hit the 2 key so we switch weapons. And there we go. Looks like we're shooting our arrows. Now those arrows are a little slow. If you want to increase the speed of those arrows, remember you can go into the prefab right here, and then change the speed right over here, okay? It's 3.5 right now, but you can change that if you want. That's completely up to you, or you can do it inside the code as well. Now let's see if our player can get hurt if he runs into an enemy, which is this little guy right here. And there we go. Looks like he gets hurt, but looks like his animation though keeps going, so it's not actually turning off the hurting. Let's double check that. If we go into player, we should see hurting just continually playing right there. We want that to turn off though. So let's go ahead, do that there. Now one thing we might check is, of course, maybe it's on a loop for hurting. So let's go ahead and find that. Player hurt. Yep, looks like it was that loop. So let's turn that off. Perfect. Let's try it again. Let's go ahead, run into the enemy, and looks like it's not ending the exact one. It's not turning off completely. Let's go ahead and see what's up with that. Alright, so the issue with that is actually inside the script. So let's go ahead and open up the script from our player. And it's pretty simple what we need to do. We just need to add an extra if statement. So let's go ahead, jump into our script. Alright, and what we're going to be doing, if we scroll all the way down to where our player is activating the hurt face, we need to add an else to turn it off. So let's go ahead and find that. Should be all the way down here. Perfect. Because we're not actually turning this off once it's no more equaling that. So simply what we can do is we can go ahead, update that there, and then do face hurt, and we can go ahead, paste this here, set that to false, and just go ahead and add else there. Because of course if it's not, then we're going to do that. So go ahead, save that there. Perfect. Let's go ahead back into the game. Alright, let's go ahead. Oops, going to ask you to return it off. Let that load. I'm going to turn it off and then turn it back on. And if we go ahead now, it looks like our player turns off completely, so it's not actually turning back on the other face. So that's a problem. Let's fix that real quick as well. Alright, to fix that, you know the best way I've noticed to do it? Let's go ahead back into the script. And we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to remove this right here because we don't actually want that there. We're going to remove that, save that. Let's go back into the game. All right, let that load. And what we're going to do is simply go ahead into our animator. Let's go to the hurt animation. And let's go ahead and red button it right here. And what we're going to do, oh, wait a minute, we need to actually add our face hurt so we can see what we're doing. So I'm going to add that. All right, I'm going to open face hurt, and then what we're going to do is just disable its two eyes because this is going to change when hurting is false and we're moving with a new button. So we can have him standing forward just like that after he's hit. That's fine with me. So let's go ahead, red button it. Let's go ahead and go towards the end over here. And what we're going to do is disable the two eyes. There we go. And there we go. Awesome. All right, that should be pretty good. Let's go ahead and disable this here. And simply enough, let's go ahead, hit play, and see what happens. Let's let that load. All right, we can make this a little bigger. All right, we got our player moving around. Nice, nice. He can still attack. Everything's good. Let's see what happens, though, when he gets hit. Looks like it's still not getting to that point. It should be disabling those two once we're at the end of it. So if we go to the animator, yep, looks like it's no longer on, but it's still initiating the face hurt, and it's not finishing the eyes. Now what we could do there, let's go ahead, unpause that. All right, so what we could do also, if we go into, again, the player and then the player hurt animation right over here, make sure you do that. Make sure it's the correct one, player hurt animation. So we can go ahead, let's play this again, make sure the appropriate one is turned on. Whoops. Yep, there we go. All right, so now that we have his eyeballs like that, we want them off, what we could do is we could simply just turn them off at the beginning and then turn them off over here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. And you know what? Actually, let's go ahead, make sure you're off the red button, and we're going to make them originally turned off like that. Perfect. But when we hit play, it's going to open them up. All right. Perfect. Let's make sure they're off though. Nope, not off. There we go. Awesome. So make sure they're both turned off. And then once we hit play, they should be on. I don't know why that's turning on again. There we go. Let's go ahead, red button, hit play. All right, make sure we turn them on right over here though. Let's go ahead, turn those on right there, and turn those on right there. Perfect. So now it should look a lot better. All right, so let's go ahead, let's hit play. Oh, looks like we didn't turn it off originally. Let's make sure to do that also. There we go. Let's go ahead. All right, we have our player. We bump into the enemy. Still doing the same thing. And looks like we have a rotation issue also. All right, now we're going to finish this. Okay, so I noticed again, for some reason, it's not turning off the eyes. So make sure we are selecting it and we are turning them off, not in the animator. So they stay off like that. Perfect. All right. And then also go into the player itself, go to the rigid body 2D, and we have to freeze some of the constraints because that's why it's spinning around sometimes when it gets hit. We just have to freeze that Z value right there. Awesome. So just like that. All right. So that should make it work. Let's go ahead, try it again. Oh, looks like I left face hurt on again. Whoops. Let's turn that off. Hit play. 3 times the charm. Let's see what happens. All right, we have the player. Let's see, he gets hit. And there we go. Perfect. All right. I know that was a little bit tricky, but we got it to work. And there we go. Perfect. All right. So far, so good. Now, of course, the reason why this isn't working is because we haven't attached the actual function to it. So we can do that here as well. Let's go ahead. Let's open that up. Find the button. It should be right here. Let's go ahead down to the click. Let's drag and drop where that is. That should be in the main player one right here. Perfect. Let's go on down to the one. There we go. And restart game. All right. Let's go ahead and finish it up. We should have everything working by now. We got the player hurt. Perfect. And we got the retry game. Awesome. All right. Congratulations if you made it this far. I know that was a bit, but we're getting closer to the end result. All right. See you next time. Please subscribe and like so I can keep making these videos as well. Thank you.